Hi, I'm Kristen Bell, and if you know my husband Dax, then you also know he loves shopping for a car. Selling a car? Not so much.
We're really doing this, huh?
Thankfully, Carvana makes it easy. Answer a few questions, put in your VIN or license, and done. We sold ours in minutes this morning, and they'll come pick it up and pay us this afternoon.
Bye-bye, truckie.
Of course, we kept the favorite.
Hello, other truckie.
Sell your car with Carvana today. Terms and conditions apply.
Lowe's knows that more projects mean more tools. For a limited time, new and existing MyLowe's Rewards credit card members can get 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more, in-store and online. Don't wait to get the things you need. Get special financing today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Now through August 27th, choose 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payments required. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
All right, we are back with another episode of Okay and you know, this season I've been telling all of my business, but this episode, it might surprise you a little bit. This is something that I have struggled with for years, and Chad, I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about it, but I knew that if I was going to talk about it, I needed to have a woman who has helped me heal a lot. We have relationship experts, dating coach, and anxious anxiety coach, as I would say, Sabrina Zohar. She has millions of followers between Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Leah, I am so excited and congratulations on the show. This is epic.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me. And Sabrina, can I be honest with you for a second?
Please do. I love it. This is good. For anybody listening, we're about to get real.
Yeah, it's going to be very real. Very real. But I'll be honest. I tried to find everyone else to talk about this but you. And let me tell you why. Because you are so cut the bullshit about this. And I'm not going to lie. I'm still hiding in my anxious anxiety a little bit. So this will definitely be a coming to Jesus moment for me. But I knew there was no one better to have this conversation with than you because of your approach. Because I can be honest, there's times I've been spiraling and I would cut on your podcast and go on a walk to try to literally feel like myself again. So I was like, okay, I have to get Sabrina, Leah. If you're gonna be honest, here's where you're gonna do it and who you're gonna do it with, you know?
First of all, I'm really proud of you because that's huge. And to even be able to take the moment to say, this is going to be a struggle for me, let's go. And I take that as an honor because that means I'm doing my fucking job, right? So I'm really excited because let me just tell you, you're not the only one struggling with this. And for anybody that has, even if it's not anxious attachment, it's just anxiety. It's so human and it's so real, but we're going to give you tools and things that you can actually do to help that and not just spiral and go down the rabbit holes like your girl used to do for years before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know about attachment style or attachment theory, I didn't know much about it up until maybe about 5 years ago. I found a therapist and one day we were talking about just how I engage in any type of relationship, right? I was having a lot of trouble with someone on my job at the time. And I remember saying to the therapist, like, I just couldn't understand why they would do me like that, or I would never do them like that. And this therapist was like, you know, your anxious attachment is really rooted in your abandonment. And first of all, I didn't think at that time I had abandonment issues. And so I was a little lost. And she said, I want you to go pick up a book. And it's this book called Attached. And this was the framework to learning about attachment styles and ultimately teaching me that I had anxious attachment. There's avoidant, there's anxious attachment, and then there's secure. And I am a by the book anxious attachment. So I read this book and I'm like, well, damn, what do I do now? Right? Like I know I have an issue, but like, how do I operate? Because then you read this book, you know, there's something wrong with you, but then you don't know how to go about doing better. And so I was struggling to deal with anxious attachment. Now, Sabrina, you're the expert. You school people on this. So can you explain a little bit more what the attachment styles are? Of course, anxious attachment, but like for anybody who may not have heard of the theory, what is it?
100%. And truthfully and candidly, that was my journey as well. Like I read that book when I was with a really terrible relationship going, oh my God, wait, I'm not broken? You mean that this isn't just me? Like I felt so seen. And it's such a
Mhm.
moment where you can finally get rid of that narrative of I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, I'm fucked up, right?
Mhm.
Insert whatever narrative. So attachment theory is something that was established and kind of brought into light in the 70s. And it was really something that therapists for a long time, we've done cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Talk about it, think about it. But for a while, really, where is it coming from and where is it stemming from? And all attachment theory on paper should be used for is not to diagnose other people. Like, that's not why we want to do this. It's to understand ourselves. And essentially, what attachment theory is saying is that between 0 to 7 is called it's a stage in your life called egocentric age. And at that time, children are very narcissistic. That's how we create our understanding of the world, right? We automatically assume everything is because of me because our little frittata brains are not developed enough to understand anything different. So, attachment style, essentially, an attachment theory, really just says we learned an attachment to our caregivers and then we bring that into our adult life. So, as you said, we have anxious, we have avoidant, we have secure, and then we have one more that's not talked about as much, and it's called disorganized. Some people call it dismissive avoidant, depends on who you're speaking to. In a nutshell, what this really means is that for anxious attachment, right? So if you grew up in a household, and let me preface as well before I even get into this, it doesn't mean that you had to have big major traumas. It doesn't mean that your parents had to be abusive or just super cold or mean to you. It could be something as small as your parent was emotionally unavailable. They didn't understand how to process their own emotions and feelings, so they dismissed you when you had yours. What does that teach the child? And that's what attachment theory is really trying to understand. It's been hijacked, it's been villainized, but for me, what I see it as anxious attachment, I have that. Hi, nice to see you. And essentially, what that means is a really deep rooted fear of abandonment, but more so, what a lot of people don't realize is it's actually also a really deep fear of intimacy. We're scared of somebody genuinely seeing us for who we are because we feel we're too much, we're too needy, the hot and cold, the inconsistency. And anxious attachment, what ends up happening is we self abandon. You tell me everything's going to be okay because I don't trust myself. And that's really, really real. So that's the anxious attacher, somebody who needs the constant validation, the reassurance, who's really spirals, overthinks, and has that very outward anxiety. Then the other side of the coin. So, one thing that is not really talked about is that when we go to the avoidant has gotten such a bad rep. It's this, oh, they don't care about people, they're cold. The avoidant has anxiety and the anxious has avoidant. It's like I said, two sides of the same coin. Anxious folks who don't realize it are also avoidant because we're so focused on you tell me it's going to be okay. I need to make everything around me change for me to be comfortable. The avoidant is literally the opposite. They are so scared of being seen. They're scared of rejection. That is from a household. Again, doesn't have to be mean parents, but I've even seen it with my own partner. The avoidant comes from a home where maybe the caregiver was inconsistent. Maybe there was shame around feeling emotions, vulnerability. They were put down. They didn't have the proper caregivers to really teach them how to process their emotions. And they see that as weakness. So what does the avoidant learn? I'm only safe by myself. So you see how the same side of the coin can really mess with the other. And that's why we have something called the anxious and avoidant trap. Anxious folks get triggered by the avoidant. They want, I need more closeness. I need you to come to me. The avoidant gets triggered by feeling overwhelmed by the anxious. And you start to see this spiral and this dance pursue. So that's anxious and avoidant. Then we have the secure attachment, which is what this gold standard we're all trying to achieve. And the reality is very few. So Amir Levine in Attached said 50% of the population is secure. And he has since come back and said he was wildly off, that more people are actually anxious or avoidant than they are secure. Now, what is secure? That means I can give and receive love. That means that vulnerability is a safety for me. That means that I was in a household where my needs were met consistently, where I felt safe with my caregivers, where I felt safe to express myself. And I think a lot of people, we see that as, oh, well, I had a perfect childhood, so I must be secure. And it doesn't mean that we need to villainize your parents or discredit your parents. What that means is we need to say, well, where did I learn this from? If I have crippling anxiety, but I want to project and say my parents were amazing, then there's a disconnect. It doesn't mean that they weren't. But what it means is maybe they taught you somewhere along the way that your emotions were too much and they didn't know how to process them. So that's the main three. And then we have the disorganized, which is kind of that amalgamation where we see that in homes, very prevalent in homes of abuse, right? Think about the child goes to their parent. They want love. So they have that anxious, I need it, I need it. The second they get that love or they get anything close to it, they remove themselves. Because think about the parent that you'd go to for love would hit you or do something severe so that the child learns this this isn't safe. So they want the love, but they also fear the love at the same time. And that is where we see that amalgamation, where a lot of people will say, I feel both in a relationship. I want that closeness, but I'm also terrified. That's that disorganized. And that's very different than in one relationship, I'm anxious, and in one relationship, I'm avoidant. That's not what that means. That's just different nervous system states. And we could get into that.
Yeah, see, this is why I called her, because this is what I need. I need the breakdowns. Now, I'll be honest with you. I had a really hard time grappling with anxious anxiety, or at least admitting that that was something that I struggled with. But when I tell you, Sabrina, it's the telltale sign since I was a child. And this is where, like I said, it's about to get embarrassing, but this is honestly the truth. When I was a kid and I liked a boy, I mean, I would call his house so much. There, shout out to Michael Pickett, which we're cool now. But when I was 10 years old, he walked into my church with his family and we were in love. Okay. We were in love. I love me some Michael Pickett. Okay. So as soon as I got his house phone number, I called every day, multiple times a day, all the time. I remember his parents used to pick up the phone and be like, "Hi, Leah, oh, shout out to you calling, but thanks so much. Here, Michael, it's Leah again." And I used to be so embarrassed, but I could not stop. I could not control myself enough to not want to reach out. And I remember as a kid feeling so much shame because I knew it was wrong, but something in me just desired to talk to, a boy that I liked. And it wouldn't even be Michael. There was others. Okay. There was others that I liked that I would go to the 20th mile, not 1 mile, the 20th mile to feel like there was some sort of connection. Half the time, these boys didn't even like me, but it was like when I made up in my mind that I liked them, hey, we're going after it, to the point that it was like, yeah, Leah, that's not normal. And I remember like my cousin sitting down and she would have to tell me, Leah, you called him an hour ago. Let's wait. Let's wait about 2 hours. You called, 3 times today. I think they're not available. And I remember thinking like, well, no, I just want to call one more time. I mean, and this is me as a teenager. I knew that it wasn't normal, but I couldn't really put my finger on what it was that made me want to call or connect or to feel like, there was someone that I liked that I wanted to connect with. Like I was a certified bugaboo. The song by Destiny Child, that was me. Like you make me want to throw my pager out the window. It was me. But I didn't realize that I had anxious attachment. And part of learning that I had anxious attachment gave me peace. But the other part of learning that you have anxious attachment is learning that you have to heal. And that is the part that I brought you on for. Because honestly speaking, I don't even know if I've 100% healed. No, actually, no, I have not 100% healed. So I know your journey. I've done the research, but tell people, because you've talked about how you were in serial relationships that kind of ended the same way, even a marriage that ended similarly to these relationships. So tell me about your journey in anxious attachment and why your journey made you want to create a platform for it.
Girl, first off, that is so real. I was dubbed boy crazy as a kid because really what that is it's one, Disney really fucking lied to us, but it's this craving of we need safety, right? And so what ends up
Right.
happening is your nervous system says, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be left, right? It has a core belief that was ingrained in you really early. Whatever, anybody listening, whatever your journey that got you here. For me, I had a narcissistic father I had a people pleasing mother who never even knew what the word boundary meant. She didn't know how to say no. And I had a father who, when I would go to him, I would hit us, was dismissive, was flippant, would leave the house for weeks on end. And so I learned very early on, there's something wrong with me. I'm too much, but yet I'm not enough, right? If I'm too much because my caregiver can't handle me, but I must not be good enough for them because they don't love me and they're not here for me. So what did that mean? I got into middle school, same thing as you. I was so boy crazy. I had posters, like huge room-sized posters of Brandon Boyd from Incubus and Heath Ledger, like you name it, I had that. And I was so obsessive with these guys. And the reason being was, one, I had no understanding of what this meant. But two, I was dysregulated. And when your nervous system is dysregulated, and what that means is that you're sensing a sense of danger. If there was a tiger that walked by, that would make total sense. Your body is doing what it's been ingrained to do physiologically and biologically. But what happens is when it's a cell phone or it's the perception that somebody doesn't want us, that triggers the same part of our brain that actually processes pain. That's why it feels like you're literally going to die, but you're not, right? You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't drink. And for me, that was my journey. I was always going consistently after people that reminded me of my dad. And I've gotten a lot of backlash for that of, oh, well, I very specifically choose people that aren't, but it ends up being the same. And what that means is that our nervous system is recognizing familiarity and patterns. So for me, I was going around for years saying, I just don't understand. And I lived in New York for 12 years. So I dated in major cities and I understand how shitty that could be. And I was the school of thought of, I just need to find a partner. I just need a boyfriend. No men want me. They're the problem, right? It's never me. And I was very woe is me victim. But yet I text a guy 173 times in a row because he tried to end it with me after a few dates. Like that's how manic I would get. And it was because my nervous system was so dysregulated. And instead of being able to say, hey, it's okay, I could sit in this discomfort,
Lowe's knows that more projects mean more tools. For a limited time, new and existing MyLowe's Rewards credit card members can get 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more, in-store and online. Don't wait to get the things you need. Get special financing today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Now through August 27th, choose 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payments required. See store or Lowe's.com for details.
Can allow myself to feel this. I can process it. I started to shame myself. I started to attack myself. And so then what my nervous system and my body said was, okay, we need them to tell me it's going to be okay. And it was like oxygen. Okay, I can breathe for a moment until the next. And that is really when I realized when I married my father, when I married somebody who wasn't like him on paper. When you looked at him, you weren't saying, oh, that's just like your dad, but how he made me feel, the way he spoke to me, the way he was very dismissive and flippant and would gaslight and manipulate situations to make me really question my reality versus what he was doing. No accountability, no empathy. Those types of variables, that feeling reminded me of my dad. And so after that, I dove into therapy. I started inner child work. I started understanding parts work, which is something called IFS, which is internal family systems. If you've ever said a part of me feels this, that's parts work. Inside Out 2 or Inside Out and Inside Out 2 is also parts work. And it wasn't until I realized my journey was not listening to the clickbait on the internet that we all see of if a guy doesn't text you every day, he doesn't like you. And I listened to that and I was doing that. And I found myself even more anxious and spiraling. Okay, well, when do I sleep with them? And how long do I wait? And wait this long to text them. I was creating these games. And really what I was doing was I was self-abandoning. I was replicating my childhood dynamic over and over again of let me make sure you like me and I water myself down so that I'm accepted by you versus let me see if this works for me. And that's what I meant when I said anxious folks are also avoidant. We don't actually stop to say, hey, this doesn't work for me. Because for us to take up space feels really dangerous because somewhere along the lines, if I said no or set a boundary, that meant punishment or being abandoned. And so I was going through this journey. I was in therapy. I'm doing all of this and I'm starting to realize what I'm being taught on the internet and what I'm seeing out there isn't actually connecting with what it is that I genuinely want and desire. And I started just creating a TikTok after I was supposed to be on Shark Tank for my clothing line and I got sent home and I was devastated and I was at my last straw and I said, I know there's got to be other people struggling like me. And I started to create a new echo chamber and a new conversation that led us to where we're at because healing. And you said it beautifully. You said, I think I'm healed. No, I'm not actually. And the reality is the reality of healing is this. You don't ever make the feelings go away. You don't just wake up one day and say, I have no more anxiety or I have no more avoidance. What you learn to do is you learn to live with it. You learn to not attack yourself. You learn to validate your emotions and your experiences. We learn to take a pause and say, I don't need to respond right now. I can take a minute and see how I feel. We learn to regulate and come back to our present moment so that we can turn our prefrontal cortex on and see things clearly for what they are. And we learn that there's nothing wrong with you and there never has been anything wrong with you. You were just taught some bullshit as a child. And that to me is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I can't guarantee that any of us are going to be in a successful or happy relationship, but I can tell you that we can come back home to yourselves so that you stop attacking yourself when it doesn't work out.
Sister, you're preaching right now. So, and you talked about texting a guy 173 times. I have to be honest. So I also picked up this book. My friend's a therapist. It's called Anxiously Attached, Becoming More Secure in Life and Love. Because girl, I'm trying. Shit. But I bought this book and well, actually a friend gave it to me. And one of the things I read that gave me so much peace is the author talked about how she got broken up with and she ended up in a mental institution because the feelings were so overwhelming. I never heard um, anybody really talk about out loud, at least, the effects that having anxiety, anxious anxiety cause. First of all, there's a lot of people who are either in denial, don't know they have it, or maybe just all of my friends can't relate. I have very few friends that can relate to me. Like my whole life, until I started reading these books, I genuinely felt like I was insane. Again, the calling, the obsessive nature, the feeling overwhelmed, the anxiety. I felt like I was on an island by myself. And reading this book when she said she had to go to a mental institution, I was like, finally, someone can understand. Not that I've ever felt the need to go to the mental institution, but girl, I looked up people's addresses. I've been ghosted. I almost thought about pulling up on their house. Okay, I'm a journalist. I found their address. I found their mom's address. I thought about pulling up because why the hell didn't you show up to this fucking date? Like that's how extreme it can get for me because I just feel like it comes down to what you said. You question yourself. I have abandonment issues, so it's always my first thought to be like, well, maybe I said something. One thing anxious anxiety does is it makes you so gracious in the spaces you don't need to be.
Yes,
And I
because
hate that.
boundaries are really tough for us, right? If you said no, Leah, growing up, what would have happened? You could have gotten left. You could have gotten hit. Who knows, right? That was not a safe space. So, of course, your nervous system is going to say, I'm sorry, this doesn't feel safe. I'm going to have to do what I always know to do. And that is obsessively try to figure out them because sitting with us, right? Why? If I ask why questions, why don't they do this? Why aren't they doing that? What you're actually doing is your brain is saying, I can't handle what my emotions are. So let me focus on them. And it's actually a distraction from coming home to yourself. Because to your point, what Jessica Baum went through in her book,
Mhm.
I went through as well after my ex left me. I tried to sit in front of a bus hoping it was going to hit me. And my mom actually pulled me out of the street in the middle of New York City. And that was my
Mm.
moment of, I'm not going to be okay. There's something wrong with me. And what happens is those core beliefs are so deep and they're so deeply ingrained. Your body literally feels like it's going to die in that moment. And I'm with you, girl. I had so many friends saying, dude, I don't know what you're experiencing. I don't know what you're going through.
Yep.
And you feel like you're alone on an island because you're like, oh, so I'm the only one that's fucked up.
Correct.
When we're all struggling and usually more often than not, I would probably bet that most of your friends might be a little bit more avoidant because that's what makes your dynamic work. Because if you had really anxious
Mm.
friends, you'd probably get overwhelmed and be like, yo, I can't do this. It's triggering me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I didn't even think about that, honestly. Yeah. And I mean, I have a friend who's both. She's that small core, uh, both of avoidant and anxious. But yeah, you're absolutely right because I just have friends who are like, I could never. I would like you calling 1,000, like I'm not getting it. Why keep reaching out? Why keep giving grace? Why, And I think part of it is standard, right? Some of them are just like you deserve better, right? And then part of me is just like it seems like no one relates to this experience or this struggle and it's so frustrating to sometimes feel like you're an island on your own. That's why, like I said, when I found you on TikTok, when I would be going through situations, I moved to Ohio 2 years ago to take a radio job. The radio job did not turn out how I thought it was going to turn out, and so maybe the first week I meet this guy, and he was attractive. There was red flags from the beginning. The flags were flagging, but you move in your 30s to a new city. You're trying to figure out how to navigate, and you meet this handsome guy who like wants to take you on dates and show you around the city. So you're like, okay. He was a class A avoidant, probably a little emotionally abusive too. But I think about like how much I endured for the sake of I didn't want to be lonely in a place that I didn't know anything about. I experienced a traumatic experience here that didn't make it easy for me to go out. And so I held on to this guy off and on for probably the first 6 months I lived here. And in hindsight, I'm like, girl, you endured so much, like I said, borderline emotional abuse because you weren't willing to be like, this isn't worth it or this isn't of your of value or of time of your time. And so I just think about like all of these experiences because even with him, he went ghost like maybe a month into it and then popped back up and was like, oh, my sister has cancer. It's like, well, you couldn't send me a text and just say, hey, I'm going to be distant. You know what I mean? Like in hindsight, you think about these things and you're like, simple communication is very simple. Not even just the calling all day and talking all night. I mean, literally just basic communication. But I held on because I was like, well, he's all I got. Or, I'm lonely here in Columbus, so I guess I just gotta hold on and take whatever. And that's why I said even actively, I'm still trying to heal. Before we got on camera, you talked about you liked this blazer. I actually got this made in Ghana. And when I was in Ghana, I had a Eat, Pray, Love girl. I met this Ghanaian man. He swept me off my feet. He took me on dates. He paid for everything. I mean, it was like the best experience I ever had with a man. Like I was like, oh, this is so great. And come to find out he's avoidant. And so I just feel like I'm in a perpetual cycle of finding these men who are not emotionally available. And I'll be honest with you. I think my anxious attachment stems in a multi-layered dynamic, right? Let's be real. I'm a Black woman. I'm plus size. I think that the dynamic of self-worth and love is a consistent, reoccurring thought in my head, right? Like as a kid growing up, you're already having tumultuous relationships with your parents. You're already a bigger girl than all of the girls around you. You're also a Black woman in the South. Those dynamics created underlying narratives that said to me, you should get what you get. I mean, honestly, there were people telling me you're going to get what you get and you should just be happy about it. And I think that also shaped my experiences because it was like, I want to date and I want to be like everybody else. And then it felt like when I liked somebody, I just wanted it to work so bad because everything around me was saying you don't deserve. And so
And
it's very deep rooted for me.
100%. And what you're beautifully describing is that you have very deeply ingrained core beliefs that on paper, right, intellectually, you're like, yeah, I'm deserving and worthy of all of this. But
Mm-hmm.
deep down, there's an inner child that's like, no, you're not. And so what ends up happening is that when we go, so what we were talking about earlier of like the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, all the brain shit, I'll just say this in a layman's term. You got two parts of your brain we're talking about. The one, logic, common sense, right? When you're safe, you and I right now, we're in our prefrontal cortex. We're able to have conversations, emotions, name how we're feeling, right? We can come. If somebody with a gun walked up right now, or if, like I said, a tiger, both of us would get dysregulated, rightfully so.
Right.
But the problem is that your cell phone is causing that dysregulation, or this person that the Ghanaian man that came in and swept you off your feet. And what happens is that little girl inside of you is going, oh my God, finally someone sees us. And what I would have to say to her is, you're right. Somebody did see you for a minute, but unfortunately it was the wrong person because who she needs to see her is you. She needs to hear, no, baby, that doesn't work for us. And I'm going to protect you because growing up, you weren't allowed to say anything. I have your back. Because when we get dysregulated and you go back into that other part of your brain, which is called the amygdala, it's your fear center that stopped growing when you were 6. So think about all of those experiences you so beautifully described that absolutely reaffirm I have to be lucky with what I can get. I'm not worthy of anymore. Scarcity mindset. You're going to be alone forever. So take it. And what I would say to that little girl, if she were here right now, is thank you so much for trying to keep me safe. You're not doing any of this to hurt me on purpose. She's trying to protect you. But the problem is she's using these maladaptive coping mechanisms that worked for your parents, right? Be a good girl, shut your mouth, do this, do this. That way you can get them to love you. But then we carry that into our adult life and then we wonder why it doesn't work. And it's so human that you met a man who came and swept you off your feet. And because for a brief moment, it created a false sense of safety. You finally could feel like, yes, I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm understood. This is all I've ever wanted. But when we don't build a solid foundation to where you can feel safe to receive that from somebody, then of course it's going to be constantly waiting. When's the shoe going to drop? When am I going to do something that's going to cause them to run away? Because that's all you know how to do. And at least for me, when I met my partner now, I was in the same shit. I met him at 32. So it's not like I've been married for 15 years and don't understand this. Like I was single. I ate shit. I was feeling like there was something wrong with me and no one's ever going to love me. And it wasn't until I realized wait a minute, safe and healthy and secure love isn't highs and lows. It doesn't mean that your nervous system is dysregulated. You're not questioning what's going on. You're actually able to have adult conversations. And it's funny because my partner is more avoidant leaning. I have my severe anxiety. He has his avoidance because of the way he was raised. But both of us are so growth minded that when we have a snafu or something, we talk about it. And he knows he needs to come closer. And I know that I need to give him space. And it's a dance and a balancing act because I think the anxious folk were so bred to say, oh, don't ever date an avoidant. And it's not about avoiding specific attachment styles. They could be avoidant, secure, they could be purple, pink. I don't give a fuck. Are they growth minded and are they doing the work on themselves? Because you're going to get triggered. You're going to meet somebody, you're going to get triggered. And it doesn't mean that that's the wrong person. It means what tools do I have to tap into to stop and say, is this a projection about my past? Or is this actually something that my partner said that hurts me and I need to have a conversation with them about? Because, girl, I'm going to challenge you on something. You said I consistently find myself finding emotionally unavailable men. Well, then we have to look and say, how am I showing up? Am I emotionally available? Am I having the hard conversations? Am I asking those questions? Am I having the depth and the vulnerability? And am I okay knowing that if this doesn't work, that's not that there doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me, but that I have to grieve. And that's something that as an anxious attacher, when we're going through this healing journey, the biggest thing I would ever leave anybody here with is you're going to have to be okay with losing people and grieving the fact that there are going to be people that benefited from the unhealed version of you. And as you start to change your dance steps, you're going to start to change the people that are in your life because it's no longer working. What you had is no longer what works to be continuing in life. And it's something that took me a minute of, it's okay. They're allowed to leave. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me.
My God, girl, I'm over here like, I gotta mute myself because this is so good. Okay, I want to ask you if you're saying, because a lot of these books will say, okay, avoidance, stay away from anxiously attached. Like, there's this stigma out there that we shouldn't. Tell me, what was the key difference in your relationship now that you knew that even though you guys were both on the opposite spectrums when it came to attachment style, that it was going to work for you? Like, what are the key things that you should look for in a person if you guys both understand that one of y'all is anxious, one of y'all is avoidant? How do you know? You said a growth mindset, but like, what were the key indications when you first started going on dates or you first started going out with him that it was like, okay, we're opposite, but we can both make this work?
That's a great question. So there's two stories that come to mind. So when we met on Hinge, right? Like we met on a dating app and I showed up though going, yeah, he's cute, right? Like he's not my type. Girl, if you saw my type, I'm not kidding. My mama laughs and says, you know, the chalk outlines of dead bodies. She's like, that's what you had. They were all the same, just a different version of the same thing. They all looked the same. They all talked the same. Like it was kind of creepy. And then I met Ryan and I was like, he's a handsome guy, but I was like, he's not the guy that like, if he walked down the street, I'd be like ripping my clothes off. It was just a good looking guy. Fine, different. And I remember we matched and he instantly went in with depth. Like he didn't just comment on my photos. He was like, he made like a whole paragraph of something to say. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is different. And within the hour, he's like, can I get your phone number? Or if you're not comfortable, you tell me, I'd love to take you out. Great. We established, I said, you know, I don't want to do dinner. I don't need to like sit across from somebody I don't know. I said, why don't we go on a hike? I was visiting San Diego with my mom. And I said, I'd love to explore. There's this one that's like a really busy hike that I've always wanted to go on. And I even remember him saying, I know you recently, I lost my dog like 3 weeks prior to meeting him. And he said, I just want to make sure, are you okay if I bring my dog Kobe or is that going to be triggering? And I remember even just thinking like, wow, that's so thoughtful. Like, thank you so much for checking on that. We go on the date. He's lovely, but he doesn't really talk a lot. Like, and now that I know him, it's like, he takes a minute to process and I don't shut the fuck up. So you can imagine that dynamic. And so I kept filling the space. And I remember we were going to leave and he said, listen, I completely respect your boundaries. Like if you don't want to go out to dinner, that's fine, but I'd love to get to know you a little further. And I was like, okay, fine. What do I have to lose? Right? This guy's so nice. Sure. And so he said, why don't you come back to my house? Let's change really quick. And then let's go out to dinner. And so we changed. And I remember I was laying on his bed and he comes and lays next to me. And I was like, oh, he's actually a lot cuter than I thought. Next thing I know, we're hooking up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, here we are. We go to dinner. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I'm never going to see this guy again. But before we left, I said, listen, because he said, I'd love to see you again. And I said, I'm just going to preface something. I said, listen, I know we hooked up tonight. And now for a lot of people, that might be faux pas. But for me, truth be told, I needed to get it. I needed to get laid. And I was like, and we had a really good time. We had a lot of fun. And I said, but if you're going to call me again, that's because you actually want to pursue something here. I don't do casual and I'm not interested in being your hookup buddy. So if you want to see me again, that's because you're going to take me on a date. And he was like, absolutely. Next day, he texts me, I'm still smiling from last night. Can I see you again? I was like, okay. And we didn't text every day. He hates texting. That's just not his thing. But he was very consistent with plans. He has to this day never canceled a plan with me. Even we lived together, but never once. He rescheduled once because he was sick. That was it. And I started to see, wow, he's really consistent. His words and actions align. When I was with him, he didn't shy away from conversations, but he wasn't asking those questions. If I asked him, no problem answering. That brought us into maybe about 3 weeks into dating. Like we were going out once or twice a week pretty consistently. I'm sitting here going, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. First date, just to see if we have a second date, just to see if we have a third. I personally had done a lot of work on myself to say, I need to change the pacing. Texting doesn't mean anything. Like, let's focus on the depth of the relationship we're building. And about 3 weeks into the dating courtship, I text him and I said, hey, hope you're having a great day. I'd really love to text more in between our dates to feel more connected to you. Is that something you're open to? And a couple hours later, he's like, hey, oh my God, so great to hear from you. I'm going to say it quickly and then I'll expand. My answer is no. And I was like, what? And he goes, but let me explain. He said, I work in tech. I have stared at a computer for 9 hours a day. The last thing I want to do is when I'm done doing that, take out another mini computer that's in my hand, focusing on trying to build a connection with someone when there's no tone with text. And I really want to be present to be with my friends and my dog. If that doesn't work for you, I completely respect your decision. But if it does, I'd love to take you out to dinner and have a conversation about this in person on ways that we can connect outside of our phone. And I was like, oh, that's really hot. Like you just set a boundary with me. You're not afraid to lose me. And so we continued to date. And really, where I started to see that the avoidance doesn't mean it's an issue is we had something I can't remember to this day. It's been 2.5 years. There was something that he said that or did or that bothered me. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I need to talk to him. This is the first conversation we're having. And I said, I'm scared. What if he leaves me? And my mom said, good, open your fucking mouth and let's see if he does. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, why am I scared to say something? And I remember calling him and my heart is in my stomach. Oh God, he's going to leave me and he's going to think I'm too much. And I was like, but Sabrina, you have every right to say something. And I said something and I remember saying that and he just stopped and he looked at me and he said, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. That was never my intention, but intent without action doesn't mean shit. What do you need for me to show up differently for you? And I was like, wait, what? Did you just validate my experience? You didn't tell me I was too much or crazy. That moment was when I said, okay, I'm giving this guy more of a chance. Because when I go to him, there was no deflection. There was no dismissive. There wasn't excuses. He would say, okay, I apologize. You're right. I need to take ownership and vice versa. And over time, when I say, hey, you're being really rigid about this, is there any way we could find some flexibility? We would talk about it and he would implement it so that his nervous system became more comfortable. That's what I mean by growth minded. It's not that this person, if somebody's rigid, black and white thinking, right? It's this or this. Either you like me or you don't. There's no in between. Then what that doesn't leave is space for gray, right? Black and white doesn't leave space for nuance to come in and colors to be starting to be established. So when you're dating somebody, it's not about, I have to be perfect and then they're going to leave me. It's about have those tough conversations. I asked my partner, how'd your last relationship end and what did it teach you about yourself? What did you change your mind about recently and what prompted the change? What does a relationship look like to you? I didn't spit them out one after another. But I gave him the opportunity to show me his words and actions aligning. And I also started to hold compassion and space that, yeah, there are going to be times where he gets so overwhelmed, he cannot talk, he shuts down. And that doesn't mean I need to internalize that. What that means is, hey, you go take 20, I'm going to take 20. Let's come back and talk about it. And we've both learned that even when I get anxious and I start to get irate, he'll say, babe, I need you to take it down a notch. I'll go for a walk and I'll come back. We're both really eager to make our relationship work. And we're both eager to do the work on ourselves and together as a couple that it takes. Because at the end of the day, this isn't because I don't do this and he doesn't do this for the relationship. We do it for ourselves. And then that benefits the relationship.
This is so good. I'm loving every minute of it. I do have a question because this is something that I struggle with. I know that reassurance to an extent is definitely a detrimental trait for anxiously attached people. What is the middle ground for you when you're helping people heal from this? Because for me, you're right. Like that little hit of dopamine you get when someone is like, no, I'm here with you. No, we're good. That does a lot for me. And part of me wants to believe that that is something that I will need quite a bit to feel secure in a relationship. But what do you advise your clients or people who are looking for help in this with the reassurance? Like, what is a baseline? Because for me, I feel like I need it a lot.
And that's really real, right? Especially if you're saying that's what makes me feel safe. And I think
Yeah.
so. What I would even come back to you is say, is like, okay, there's a couple of things here right before, right? What we want to look at is before you're seeking the reassurance, right? We want to start to get curious about what's happening. So, my first question would be, okay, what are the sensations in your body? What do you start to feel when you're like, I need this reassurance? I'm going to come out of my skin.
hmm
So, if you're going to tell me, right, I'd love to hear from you, Leah. What do you feel?
Um, so like let's just say I haven't heard from a person that I want to talk to. And or they've become distant, right? Like let's just say like they were being pretty consistent with conversation, text, calls, and then it gets a little silent. And then I reach out and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And then I hear nothing back. It There's something internally. I don't even really know how to describe it, honestly. I guess I would call it anxiety, but I just feel like very possessed by the feeling. Like it's like a gnawing feeling. Like it does not leave my body. Like it's a physical experience for me. It's not like, oh, my head is just pacing. It's like physically, I don't feel at ease when I feel this way.
100%. So that's dysregulation because what happens is that person is created a false sense of intimacy. We're texting every day, we're calling. Oh, okay, that means they like me. And so what we've told our brain is, I'm safe, I have them. And so then when there's the perception of they're going to leave me, they're not, that triggers your nervous system. That's why your body starts to come into play. Your vagus
Mm,
nerve is located right in your sternum, right? Like right below that area. So if you have that line
wow.
between your stomach, that's why you'll start to feel. So what the first thing I would say is, okay, you feel this sensation. I want you to set your clock for 3 minutes and put it down next to you on your phone. Because what happens, and the reason I say set your clock is because when we do that, if you're focused on one thing and then an alarm goes off, it actually activates a different part of your brain to come back to the present moment. So you're no longer
Mhm.
focusing on the one thing. Then I'd say sit with the sensation, right? How we always hear, I don't feel better. It's like because I'm not feeling. So allow the sensation. I feel like I'm going to come out of my skin. Okay, I'm going to sit with it. 3 minutes. Set your clock. No, I don't want us to think about my narrative and the story I've created. No, 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 no. Where do I feel it in my body? So that could say, it feels like there's a brick in my chest. Okay, is the brick big or small? Is it gray or is it black? Right? Start to create a texture to it. What you're doing is we don't want to self identify, I have anxiety. There is an anxious feeling in my body right now. That way,
That's good.
this isn't me, right? It's another feeling and sensation that I'm having, and we're not scared of it. Cool. Clock goes up, and you're like, wow, 99.9% of the people that I work with, when I do this with them on a call, you'll start to see they're like, oh, wow, it feels a little lighter. Oh, it's not as intense. We're allowing your body to feel. Then, when that's over, then I'll do this exercise with you. Okay. Then I would say, Leah, what is the narrative? What is the story that you've created about the situation? They didn't text. Fine, sure. They didn't text. That's real. Where did you go?
They're done. They don't like me. I was overwhelming. It was too much. People don't really care like they say they do. My favorite is you aren't continuing a vibe you created.
Okay.
That's
So,
my
and
favorite.
those are all valid feelings, right? I'm not going to say they're facts though, because then I would say, so let me say, I'm the judge. You have to convince me and I'll give you all the money in the fucking world. What proof do you have? Hold cold hard facts that this person is over you and done with you because they didn't text you back.
Not one.
Exactly. And that's okay, right? We can say, right, so I don't have any cold hard facts. What contrary thoughts do I have? Well, I literally just spoke to them last night, right? Okay, cool. So once we've established it's no longer about them, and here's the reality, maybe you're not wrong. Maybe you're right. Yeah, there is a vibe change. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about. It's not about discrediting that maybe that's real experience. What we're discrediting is that it doesn't need to be anything about your worth. So then the next question I'd ask is, okay, Leah, all of those thoughts that you have, how old do you feel when you say them?
Jesus,
Right?
Lord and Savior. Come on, Sabrina. This is good. I feel uncomfortable. This is good.
Good. Good. How old do you feel? Like, does that feel like a feeling and an emotion you felt before?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And oftentimes I always ask, like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to this guy or are you talking to your mom and dad trying to get them to see you? Yeah. So if we know that and that's totally
Ooh,
valid.
girl.
So then I would say, okay, if you say, Sab, I felt like I'm 7. I feel like I'm a 7-year-old. I don't know why. Okay. If we had little Leah here, I want you to see this beautiful, gorgeous little girl. I don't care. All of those things that you fucking hate about yourself. There she is. She is this beautiful, her skin is just this gorgeous chocolate. She's a bigger girl, and god damn it, she looks beautiful. All of those things. She's
Mm.
right there next to you. What do you think she needed to hear that she didn't? What do you think she needs to hear?
Oh God. Where are the tissues? I didn't plan to cry this episode.
It's okay.
Um, what does she need to hear?
Yeah.
You're enough.
Yeah.
You're beautiful.
Yeah.
Your gifts are gonna make room for you. You're
Yeah.
not too much. Your personality will be the thing that people love about you. Oh God.
And that's beautiful. And you know what? Maybe also, I want to be curious too. You know what she might also need to hear? Hey, you're right. This is really uncomfortable. And I'm so sorry that you're
Mm,
feeling this anxiety, but I hear you. I'm listening to you. What do you need from me? What are your needs from me? I can't control him. And we don't know what's going to happen. But baby, are you scared of losing me or are you scared of losing him? Which one is it? Because more often than
mm,
not, she's fucking scared of losing you. She doesn't want you to self abandon and leave her to get him to choose her. And that is how you can show up for yourself and say, okay, so I'm human. And that's so real that this is causing me anxiety. Given everything I've been through, it wouldn't surprise me that this would make me anxious. But that doesn't mean I need to act on it. I could just be for a minute and be uncomfortable and acknowledge that I'm scared. And I'm really worried that this
mm.
person's going to leave me. And that's okay.
Well, I'll just send you my therapy bill because here we are. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that it's so deep and it's so intertwined with our beings. Um, now that I've read these books and now that I've learned a lot more about myself, when I see people treat kids a certain way, I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, don't not give them attention. Don't forget about them because I know how deeply, as a 31-year-old woman, I'm still fighting things that a 5-year-old Leah didn't get, you know? And that's why sometimes it scares the hell out of me to have kids because I'm like, bro, you can try your best and still F your kids up. But
Oh,
it's so
100%.
important.
That's the thing. All kids are going to have issues, right? But they've
Yeah.
actually shown scientifically that so there was something called the still face experiment that was done many moons ago, and they've replicated this experiment like 1,000 times. And what it showed was that, and that's actually why they say Botox is very detrimental because
Mm,
a child learns perception through caregivers' facial expressions. And so they did a study, and it's called, so if you can Google it, it's called the still life experience or still face experience. And they had a mother, and she was sitting there, and she was smiling, and she was looking at her kid, and the kid was interacting with her. And then they instructed her to go completely silent. There's just no expression whatsoever, and no longer attuning to her child. And so the kid started to get very viscerally upset and started and then the mom just sat there. And what you could see was because of the fact that the mom just broke the connection to her child. So think about, you see these parents out holding their kids on their cell phones, and the children are looking around, not making eye contact with their caregiver. And so the kid starts to get irate, starts to scream, starts to get upset. And then the child shuts down and just sits there. And then they instruct the parent to reconnect with the child. And she goes back, and you see the kid light back up. And that right
mm,
there is attachment styles and attachment theory. That it could be something so minute as my parents were working all the time and they just didn't pay attention to me until I did well in school. That can cause you to feel like your perfectionism. I have to earn
mhm.
my love because they don't see me. That doesn't mean we need to villainize our parents, right? Some of your, like my parents, my dad, he's an asshole. I can acknowledge that, right? He did a lot of fucked up stuff, but I can
Yeah.
also hold space and say two conflicting thoughts. You're right. How you treated us as children was ridiculous, but given what he went through and his childhood,
Mm,
that makes sense to me that that's what he thought love was, because my father, as twisted as he is, loves us. And that's
yeah.
part of that healing journey. I don't need to hold that anger anymore. I can acknowledge that my childhood was bullshit and I deserved better. But you know what? I didn't get it. And now I can give that to me in the ways that no one was able to. But here's the reality, babe. And anybody that's listening, this stuff doesn't end. You're going to have it in your career. You'll have it in your friends. You'll have it in your family. Again, it's not about making it go away. It's learning to live with it and saying, I don't have facts to back this up. I might be scared right now, but what are my choices?
Mm, yeah. Absolutely. So, talk to me about steps. I watched a video where you kind of talked about, when your nervous system is getting dysregulated, different things you can do. One of the advices I took when I was arguing with the Ghanaian man one time, and a funny story actually. This was at a point where he had told me, you know what, I just think we should be friends. I think that, I have a lot going on, you have a lot going on, let's be friends. And I remember I was losing my shit. Okay. And
Yeah.
so I got on TikTok and I literally just started scrolling through all your videos, all your videos, trying to just get some type of regulation, right? And one of the things you said is go on a walk. So I got my phone, I put your podcast on, and I was walking around the track, and I really calmed myself down, right? I'm listening to you and this guy talk about anxious attachment and the science behind it. I'm just really listening, trying to disconnect, to reconnect with myself. And so I'm walking around this track, and he calls. Sabrina, when I tell you, I answered this call and I was outside of this park. So there's all these people playing soccer and all this stuff going on. I tell you, my ass was so pressed to talk to him. I tried to run to the car and I fell in a mud puddle. And that felt like that was a sign. Like your stupid ass shouldn't even answer the phone. Cause now look at your stupid ass. You walking home to your car covered in fucking mud because you just, regulated yourself and realized, like, you know what? If he doesn't call, I'm okay. Oh, girl, he called and I broke character instantly. So I want to know, what are some tips you would give people, going on walks, but what are some other things? Because everyone says journaling, and I'm not going to lie, I hate fucking journaling. So what are some things that you would suggest to people if they're having this anxiety or they're feeling unregulated? What would you say they should be doing?
100%. And also, the first thing I'm going to say is we got to start learning how to talk to yourself a little bit nicer, right? Because think about that little girl. I want you to notice her every time. She's the little girl that answered the phone. She thought that's what she needed to do, right? She's always done that. She's always picked up the phone and called a million times. So what we have to tell her is, hey, baby, thank you so much again for trying to protect me. But I really don't need that because I'm the adult here. I don't need you to step in, but thank you. Because then you're just going to be fighting yourself. But outside of that, right? Outside of showing compassion. So here's a fun fact. We get dopamine. Dopamine is released in two different ways: in anticipation of, and when it's a surprise, right? So in anticipation of, right, you text them, you're waiting, or you have a goal in life, your career, you're doing, that's what motivates you. It keeps you going because you're in anticipation of. Dopamine also gets released when they text you out of nowhere, right? All of a sudden, the guy, the girl, the day, I don't care, whatever it is, text you and you're like, oh my God, I could breathe again. But you know when dopamine is also released? When we show compassion to ourselves. Because when we're stressed, cortisol spikes and it naturally depletes your other neurotransmitters because you need anything you can to keep your body going from the stress. So when you say, hey, it's okay, I was really excited that he called, you release dopamine. And the reason I say that is because your nervous system, so you said you're 31, you have 31 years of conditioning. It's going to take us a minute. And so what we want to look at is micro habits. That's why New Year's resolutions don't do shit. Oh, I'm going to lose 200 pounds and I'm going to start doing this and run marathons. And meanwhile, you're like, I haven't left the couch in 6 months and I'm probably not even going to put my shoes on to go to the gym. So what we want to do is we want a habit stack. That's the thing. So like journaling, I'm with you. For a while, I was doing it out of force. The only time I say journaling is really beneficial is when you're spiraling, when you're like, I can't get off my loop. Journaling is really important because it helps you to dump your thoughts somewhere and it activates a different part of your brain when you're writing with a pen to paper. That's why I would say to journal. Other than that, it feels performative and that's okay. In the moment, right? So we have the nervous system has two main states, right? You have the parasympathetic, which is safe, rest, digest, all of those good things. Then you have sympathetic when you go down the ladder. That is what you're describing as that anxiety where you're like, I fight, flight. I can't sit still. I need to move this energy. So when we have something like that, going for a walk is great because you are activating two parts of your brain, bilateral movements. You can also do the shakes. You can literally just like do shakes in your house. You could do 10 jumping jacks. We're making them intentional. It's not about go to the gym for an hour. That you can still be dysregulated. Your body's just now running from the tiger. The point of regulating is to move the energy. Like I remember I had these trolls that were attacking me on the internet because God forbid a woman says something that people don't like. And my coach said, punch the air. She's like, fight the trolls. And when I did that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm safe. Because what you're doing is you're moving that immobilized energy to let your body know I'm safe. Now, that's if you're sympathetic. If you're super dorsal, like you shut down, you go cold, right? We've all done that where you're like, your brain's like, hey, this is too much to shut down. What that would look like is maybe just sitting up straight, right? Having a cup of tea, putting on a sweater that feels like a hug or a weighted blanket, maybe slight movements. And what I really look at is what do I need right now? Do I need water? Do I need to put my phone down because that's not helping? Do I need movement? But a really good thing that I'd love anybody to do is get sour candy and keep them around your house. Sour candy, if you're ruminating and spiraling, once you put it in, your brain automatically is going to go, oh, there's something new in here. And it'll cut that from right there. You could grab ice cubes out of the freezer. That'll do the same thing. It snaps you back to reality because your body cannot avoid the sensations it's experiencing. And so when we're thinking of regulating, what we want to do is get us to a place of processing and not ruminating. When you're ruminating and spiraling, you're dysregulated. What if? And I'm so scared. And that's the fear center talking. When we're processing, your prefrontal cortex is turned on. So you're able to look at things objectively. Okay, right? This guy just said this. Now, I'm not expecting you to build Rome in a day and go, I went from emotionally unavailable men who just told me that he wants to be my friend to all of a sudden I'm this empowered woman like Beyonce. It's like, that's not going to happen overnight. So maybe what it is I'm going to put 2 seconds between responding to his response. That's something that's progress for me. We want to look at little micro moments that can happen. And so if your thing is, okay, well, I want to start going on walks, put your shoes by the door. And then the next day, put your socks by the door. And then the next day, put your shoes on and walk around the house. We want to do it slowly so your nervous system is going, okay, this feels safe. I could do it, and not feeling completely jarred that you're going to go to hell in a handbasket.
No, that's great information because, yeah, I am tired of the journal police. Like every therapist I had is like journal, journal, journal. And it's like, I write for a living. I don't like to necessarily keep writing all the time. So these are great tips. Like I said, the walking definitely helped me until I fell in the mud and went back. But either way, yeah, I think it's great ways to have actionable steps because I feel like, over the years, I had so many therapists be like, okay, you have anxious anxiety and you need to journal, maybe write it out. I had one therapist tell me to get on video and just ugly cry it out. Like if I didn't want to journal. And I was like, girl, I don't think I could live with myself. I think it would be my 13th reason to watch those back. But she was like, maybe seeing yourself in that state might help you be able to move forward, not be like that. I never tried it because like I said, it would literally be my 13th reason to watch myself like that. But, I'm glad that you have other steps. I like the, putting the shoes by the door, slowly doing things. Because I feel like when I'm forced into things, I never want to do them. So those were great tips.
And girl, I'm with you. Listen, I love therapy. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not being like, don't ever go. But therapists are very limited, right? Like a lot of therapists look at it as like cognitive, this, that, and the other. But a lot of therapists are not asking like, well, how old do you feel? Where do you feel the sensations in your body? What's coming up for you? The story. A big thing I love starting to get used to is the story I've created is, because what you're saying is this isn't factual. This is just the story that I've created about what's going on in my brain right now and what's happening. And if anybody wants any more tips, my friend Britt Frank is a neuropsychotherapist and she is just brilliant. And she's got a book called The Science of Stuck. And it has a million tools and techniques and ways to get us out, because one thing that I would love people to take away, and I do this every day, when I start to have that voice, and sometimes I'll be like, who is it? Is it a protector part? Like, what are you trying to protect me from? Have a cup of coffee with it. Literally talk to yourself as if you're trying to have a cup of coffee. Okay, baby, what are you trying to protect me from? Well, I'm scared that he's going to leave me. Okay, what's so scary if he leaves me? Right? Start to have a conversation like you would your friend, because then what you're doing is you're making these parts different so that you can understand them and you're not fighting against yourself. You're creating a cohesion within yourself.
That's really good. Yeah, I think it takes a certain level of awareness and having your guard down to do that for sure. Because like I hear you saying that, and I feel like I would be in my kitchen playing. But the minute you said earlier, what is the little Leah saying to herself? Do you see how emotional it instantly made me?
Oh yeah.
It was like a deeper depth of space that pulled out of me than maybe even I'm willing to have with myself.
That's totally fair. 100%. We can only go as deep as we're willing to meet ourselves. And so if you're not there, that's okay, right? We can say, I'm on my journey. It's going to take me a minute, but I know that she's there and I will come and see her soon.
Well, you know what? I'm going to come and see her, but guess what? I can always come and see you on TikTok, on your podcast, everywhere. Because like I said, girl, you have really gotten me through a season of my life that I had been struggling with. So I thank you for putting your content out. I thank you for being a vessel, because I know sharing your own story and your own trauma sometimes comes with a burden that people don't necessarily understand. So thank you for using your gifts and being a vessel from your experiences, Sabrina.
And thank you. And I'm really fucking proud of you. You're doing the work.
Thank
You're
you.
showing up. And anytime you start to think you're not, remember the version that you were a year ago and say hello to her and let her know that you got her this far and you're going to keep taking her further.
Absolutely. And she'd be happy that I would be talking to you because she and me were looking at the videos for a minute trying to get ourselves through. But if people want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about your services, also subscribe, get to your podcast, your TikTok with millions of followers, where can they go?
So TikTok, Sabrina.Zohar, as long as it's still around, we're hoping. YouTube, Sabrina_Zohar. That's where you could watch the podcast, the Sabrina Zohar Show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, or the Sabrina Zohar Show on Instagram. So come on in. We'd love to have you. And it's just a really amazing community and safe space. There's courses, there's all that fun shit, but like we're just trying to build a community of like-minded people that want to feel safe being themselves. And that's really all I ask.
Absolutely, girl. And you'll find me there on the front row, honey, because I am a subscriber. Okay. So make sure you download her podcast, follow her on her social medias. Really good information. If you love this, you'll love her there. So thank you so much, Sabrina. I appreciate you. I knew this was going to be a hard conversation, but I knew that you were the perfect person to have it with. So thank you for joining me today.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Queen. All righty. Well, listen, make sure you guys download, like, subscribe to OK. And you can follow us on Instagram at OK and with Leah. And we will see you on the next episode. Oh my God, that was a really good episode. Listen, I'm being biased, but it was a really good episode. So again, download, like, subscribe, follow us, and we will see you on the next episode of OK and.